Some games are a really good advert for the Championship. This wasn't one of them. Hello everybody, it's Ian here once again from OUFC Fan View, and it's time to do another review of another Oxford United game. The U's were on the road again. The U's were down in Devon again. They were away at Plymouth Argyle. So after that disappointing defeat in the FA Cup, Oxford were back in league action, and it is a massive 6-pointer at the bottom of the table as they took on the literal basement boys themselves in Plymouth. But it will be a vastly different Plymouth Argyle than what we saw at the Kassam Stadium just a few weeks ago. Not least because Plymouth's home form is so much better than their away form, but also because they have a new man in the dugout. There's no more Wayne Rooney. It is Miron Muslić's turn to try and steer these Pilgrims away from troubled waters. And it certainly wasn't a classic. I think you saw two sides that were quite keen on not losing the game before they wanted to try and win it, and rather predictably it ended all square. This one finished Plymouth Argyle 1, Oxford United 1. So we'll do what I usually do on the channel. I'll go over the team news, I'll go over the key incidents in the game, and then I'll give my final thoughts for both sides at the end of the video. If you do just want to jump to the end and see my final thoughts, that's absolutely fine. I do put timestamps down below. Feel free to use them, but I'd always recommend watching the whole video. You're going to miss so much gold that spews from my mouth. What a strange saying. But anyway, either way, hit that like button, and if you do like the content, then consider subscribing. So let's have a look at the team news, starting with Oxford United, and as expected, most of the players that played in that disappointing defeat to Exeter are replaced, and the big hitters have come back in. Cumming, Brown, Kioso, Vaulks, Brannigan, Plaheta, Rodriguez and Harris are all back in the starting 11. It's only Greg Lee, Sam Long and Matty Phillips that keep their place. I'm sure that will be, some people will be very happy with Matty Phillips playing. He seems to be getting a lot of criticism of late. Tyler Goodrum serves the first of a 3-match suspension for that questionable red card he got in the Exeter game. But still no sign of Ollie Romani, and Marcelino Ferdinand is also not in the squad. Let's move on to the home side then, and it's a new era for the Pilgrims as Miron Muslić takes charge for the first time. Plymouth do sit bottom of the Sky Bet Championship and are 8 points adrift of Oxford United, and that's the way it remains at the end of the game. But the Green Army did score a fantastic win in the FA Cup. It's very contrary to Oxford United's result. They got a fantastic 1-0 win over Brentford. But there are changes from that victory in the capital, starting in goal where Daniel Grimshaw takes the gloves. Other players coming into the side are Darko JB, Rami Al-Hadjj and a debut for Timotaz Pukac, probably saying that name wrong. Hazard, Sariola, Roberts and Wright are the players to come out of the 11. Right, so let's have a look at this game. And it was nearly a dream start for Oxford United. In the first minute of the game, a long throwing in by Will Vaulks caused a massive goalmouth scramble. We were just waiting for it to bounce to an Oxford player and then to just tap it in, but Plymouth just about scrambled it clear. But really it was Plymouth, the side that looked the more likely to score a goal in this first half. That chance they had at the very start was really the most Oxford did for a long period in this first half. And after 10 minutes, it was Plymouth's first chance of the game. And Pukac got in acres of space down the left-hand side, which he did throughout the game. He had a really solid debut. But this time, he was in acres of space. He had all the time in the world to slide it across to Al-Hadjj, whose first-time effort was a good one. It looked destined for the top corner, only for Jamie Cumming to stick out a hand and claw it away. It's another wonder save for the Jamie Cumming highlight reel. 4 minutes later, Al-Hadjj again with a chance, but this time he curled it wide from the edge of the box. 25 minutes on the clock and another promising attack down the Plymouth left. That seems to be where they were getting all their joy, and it was Pukac again. He tries his luck from the edge of the box, but this time it sailed over the bar. Probably looking back on it, he should have driven down the line to try and cross it, and luckily for Oxford, he went for the glory shot and it went harmlessly over. And whilst Plymouth were in the ascendancy at this point, and for most of the first half, it wasn't as if they were like battering down the Oxford door, and Oxford did feel relatively comfortable. We've certainly been under more pressure in other games, but Oxford just don't seem to be able to get through any game without an injury, and the latest one came to Sam Long, who was forced off after 41 minutes and was replaced by Jordan Thornley. But maybe that was an inspired move by Gary Rowett, because just 2 minutes after that, Oxford out of nothing, took the lead. And oh my word, what a goal it was. It was actually a ball forward by Jordan Thornley that was headed down by Greg Lee into the path of Mark Harris. And Mark Harris actually did really well to hold the ball up long enough for Will Vaulks to get up and join the attack. Harris thought about shooting himself, but he laid it off to Vaulks 25 yards out, and he rifles it into the top corner of the goal. No chance for Grimshaw. What a goal. What a celebration. And Oxford, with their first shot of the game, take the lead. That is indeed what Oxford took into half-time, leading this game 1-0. One shot, one goal. Perfect for the Yellows. It's been a half where both sides have been very cautious, and you did really get a sense of both sides not wanting to make many mistakes, not really pushing too many players forward and trying to always be very cautious of not leaving that back door open. Oxford, when they did get the ball, no messing around at the back. They did want to try and get the ball forward very quickly, but they really struggled to create any chances at all until that Vaulks wonder strike, which came completely out of the blue. Plymouth have been okay. The movement of the front three has been good at times and caused Oxford some problems, but not really a lack of pace to really hurt the Yellows, I would say. And as I say, it was hardly sustained pressure, and you did get the sense that that crowd was getting more and more frustrated the more and more that first half went on, not least with the fact that Oxford took a 1-0 lead into half-time. If Oxford could hold on to this, it would be huge. Can they do it? Join me for the second half to find out. I would actually say overall it was a decent second half performance by Oxford United, and it was a strange case of deja vu in the first minute of the second half, which mirrored the first minute of the first half, with another Vaulks long throw-in, which caused Plymouth problems. It was a bouncing ball and they just about scrambled it clear. Oxford had a lot of throw-ins by Vaulks, and they kind of got less effective the more the game went on. But as I said, it was a decent start to the half, and we got to the hour mark, and Oxford weren't really under any... didn't really seem like they were under much trouble at the back. Plymouth were really struggling to create chances. The final ball into the box was very disappointing, and Oxford were able to just get the ball and knock it down into the channel for players like Harris or Plaheta or Rodriguez to chase. And it was meaning Oxford were able to get up the field and get set pieces. And from those set pieces, they looked like they might score a goal from it. But when Plymouth did attack, they looked very dangerous down the left, and we had a little pre-warning on about 61 minutes where again it was Pukac again in that left-hand side, this time a wicked low cross, and Kieran Brown did really well to avert the danger to just about stick out a leg and clear the ball ahead of a Plymouth forward who would have had a virtual tap-in. But it only was a respite for a couple of minutes, because on 63 minutes, Plymouth found that equaliser, and it was very frustrating because Oxford were looking comfortable, but not surprising, it came from Pukac on that left-hand side again. He was given far too much space. I think it was like Phillips out there, just not doing a good enough job of closing him down. His cross was excellent. Hadjj got away from Thornley, and I've got to say it's an excellent header. He's guided it beautifully past Jamie Cumming. The Pilgrims have levelled it up, and you were expecting a grandstand finish from them. But you never really saw that grandstand finish from Plymouth. You never really saw them get up that head of steam. Gary Rowett played all his cards with about 20 minutes, 15 minutes to go. You saw Dembele and Scarlett come on for Harris and Plaheta. Matos and Teraves came on for Phillips and Rodriguez. And one thing I would say is Oxford were doing a very good job of making it an ugly game. Very stop-start and really not allowing Plymouth to get any momentum. But I would say Plymouth were quite sloppy with a lot of their play as well. But neither side will care about how ugly the game was if they could find a winner, and it was Oxford who nearly did find that winner in injury time. A couple of chances for Siriki Dembele as Plymouth pushed more players forwards on 91 minutes. It did mean there was space for Dembele, and he was in acres of space down the Oxford left. He got to the edge of the box, took a massive air shot. You thought the chance was gone, but as everybody kind of stopped, Dembele was able to get back on the ball again. This time he does get a shot away. It was a good strike, and Galloway, who's been most of the game, he's been a bit of a bystander, makes a fine save. And 3 minutes later, it's Galloway denying Dembele again. Plymouth failing to clear, long throwing into the box. Vaulks was able to put the ball back in. It was only punched out by Galloway to the edge of the box. It's another good strike by Dembele and another great save by Galloway. This one even better than the one before. Oxford nearly win it at the death, but they have to settle for a point, which I'm sure we would have taken before the start of the game. So let's move on to the final thoughts then. Let's start with the home side in Plymouth Argyle. And I'm curious to see what you Plymouth fans make of this game, because I think that after you got that victory against Brentford, we saw the arrival of Muslić, who didn't have a lot of time to work with the players, but you saw that amazing, rousing speech that he did that was all over social media. I was really expecting Plymouth to be really intense in this game, and I didn't really see it. I thought there were moments where you looked decent and moments the front three looked quite good, but you didn't really have a focal point up top, and that wasn't really helping in your attacks. I thought, by and large, other than a couple of good balls that Hadjj put in, I thought the delivery from wide areas and set pieces was pretty poor. Defensively, I thought you looked pretty solid. I thought the centre-backs in there did a pretty good job. And I wonder if that Brentford game did just take a lot of energy out of the players. You were probably chasing the ball for a lot of that game, because you really just didn't get that real intensity where were going to put Oxford under pressure, and you were creating chance after chance or throwing ball after ball into the box and asking the Oxford defence questions. You just never really got it. I really sense there was a lack of pace in the Plymouth side as well. Oxford have really struggled with pacey players, particularly on the flanks, and I just noticed it didn't really seem like there was any pace out there to hurt Oxford today. It was a fine debut by Hadjj though on the left hand side. He looks a really promising player, and Hadjj looked decent. He took his goal really nicely in the middle. But all in all, I think that considering how big of a week this week is with the 3 home games you've got in a row, I think you certainly would have earmarked this one as almost a must-win game, and a game you really would probably say you should be winning. And the fact that you haven't, I wonder if you're pretty disappointed and dispirited after that one, because surely you would have rather got the win today than the win against Brentford. Are you going to sell Whittaker? Is Whittaker on his way? If you were to sell Whittaker, Plymouth fans, how much would you like to receive for him? That is the message I'm asking you. But also, who needs to come in? What does Muslić need to do to improve this Wycombe side? He talks a lot about playing with a lot more high press and getting players' bodies up the field, but we didn't really see a lot of that today, but surely that will come over time. But what players need to come in this transfer window, and do you still feel confident that you're going to pull yourself away from this relegation scrap? Good luck for the rest of the season, my friends. I have nothing against the Plymouth fans at all. You've usually been very supportive for me on this channel. Really keen to know your thoughts. Good luck, and hopefully we'll be in the same league next season, in the Championship. And that brings me on to Oxford United, and I would say that's a creditable draw for the Yellows. I'm sure we all would have taken it before the start of the game. I feel that does kind of justify Gary Rowett's decision to rest all those players for the FA Cup now, and I think if we can back up this point with a win in either of the 2 home games against Blackburn and Luton, then that is excellent sort of little haul for this sort of period of 3 games. It's another game where Oxford have scored the first goal. We've done it in every single game so far under Rowett. Frustratingly, though, we weren't able to hold on for it. And I think more frustrating than anything, certainly more frustrating than the Preston game, is I don't really think we were under that much pressure. So I think Gary Rowett will be annoyed that Oxford didn't either get a second goal or see out this 1-0 victory. Again, we had to rely on Cumming a bit. He made a fantastic save at the start of the game. But other than that, I didn't really feel that Plymouth looked that dangerous when they came forward. But you can certainly see Oxford aren't pissing around with the ball at the back anymore. There was really hardly any passing for the sake of passing that we used to see, or even attempting to try and pass it out from goal kicks or situations like that. Is get it forward, get it into channels, let people run onto it, and we'll play football when we're higher up the pitch. When we were able to do that, we looked okay. In the second half, we had more control over the game, and I thought that game plan was working better, maybe as Plymouth tired a little bit. But in the first half, we certainly struggled, and we certainly did have to weather a bit of possession and weather a bit of a storm. Not too much, more of just Plymouth having the ball for far more than we did. And I wonder if the Long injury kind of ended up being a bit of a blessing in disguise. Not the fact that we lost Sam Long, but it forced Rowett to go into that 3 at the back. And that sort of matched Plymouth up a little bit more. And I feel like it did against Preston, really. It seemed to give Oxford a little bit more control in the game. But let's talk about the man that scored that rocket of a goal. My goodness, is Gary Rowett like the Vaulks whisperer or something? He looks a much different player, much rejuvenated player, and just looks a strong asset in this centre of midfield alongside Brannigan now. And what a hit, what a goal. 2 years since he scored his last goal was what they were saying on commentary. Well, you don't mind waiting that long if they are strikes of that quality. Amazing celebration from Will Vaulks as well. And I thought he carries on his excellent form that he's shown under Gary Rowett, and he's proving to be the player that we thought we were getting when we signed him from Sheffield Wednesday. I am curious how you feel about tactics, whether these Gary Rowett tactics are going to get old pretty fast for some fans. Some fans are already talking about the negative style of play. I personally don't mind it at the moment. While we're scrapping and fighting for every point, I don't mind Oxford kind of rolling the sleeves up, trying to be a bit ugly, trying to be a bit dirty, slowing the game down, frustrating teams. It's a little bit weird because we usually used to bemoaning every other side for doing that against us. So it is quite strange seeing Oxford do that. But at the moment, it's kind of working. It's making us harder to beat, and we are picking up points, and we do look more solid at the back. Kind of like that tactic of just being able to like hit balls into the channel. I think you do get kind of the good players able to like get on the end of those balls, like Plaheta. Harris is always a willing runner. Rodriguez's work rate is generally pretty good as well. So it's a good tactic to try and get us up the pitch, especially if we're able to win corners, win long throw-ins, and stuff like, and win free kicks. It does help us kind of like kill the momentum of a game. And I thought, like he did against Preston, I thought Dembele came on and looked pretty good. Nearly won the game for us at the end. It's still difficult to see where he's going to fit in. I've as much as we do slag, a lot of people do criticise Phillips, I just feel that Rowett likes Phillips. He feels he maybe gets more control and more trust out of Phillips. Please feel free to put your comments down below. I'm not sure I totally agree with that either. And obviously, while Goodrum's out as well, he probably will continue to just have Plaheta on one wing with a little bit more of a license to go forward, and Phillips on the other. The injuries in defence as well just make it more and more important that we do get more cover in that area in this transfer window. If Long's out for any significant period now, it means we are relying on Thornley, we are relying on Kieran Brown. If any of those two go down injured, then we really are down to the bare bones. You might have to rethink about if we send Negru out on loan or if we start bringing him in to sort of play a few games as cover, because we really need some bodies in the building from a defensive point of view. But the ones we're being linked with at the moment are attacking players. We do need attacking options too. Tom Bradshaw coming in from Millwall. He's a player that's worked with Rowett before. I think he could be a good option, good experienced player. Ryan Longman coming in from Hull. Again, useful player who's kind of just fallen a bit out of favour at Hull. Might be a sort of player we can get and hopefully rejuvenate in the second half of this season. But there'll probably be some going out as well. There's been talk of Owen Dale going out. There's been talk of Negru going out. You would imagine players like McEachran will at some point be going out, you would imagine, if anybody wants to take them. But there's still going to be a lot of things up in the air on that window, and probably a lot of it won't get resolved until the final day. That's the way those things usually go. But yeah, look, I think most of us would have taken a point today. I think if I was really greedy, I feel we could have got 3 points today. I feel maybe we were a little bit more adventurous, a little bit more aggressive. We could have nicked that. We could have got 3 points today, and it would have made a massive difference. In the end, we have to settle for one and move on. It's certainly not a disaster. It's certainly another point gained. And we'll see. We'll see if we can build on it now with 2 home games against Blackburn and Luton. That's it for me. I'll be back to do a review of that Blackburn Rovers game at the weekend. Enjoy your evening, enjoy your day whenever you're watching this. And yeah, come on you Yellows, still unbeaten under Rowett.